Welcome to part two, where we talk about recruiting with Coach Rocha and what she looks for in pitchers. Be sure to subscribe and like to see more content like this. So we'll just get right into it. Just what the best way to be seen by college coaches and what exactly you look for when you're out recruiting.
Yeah, I think number one, I'm just going to say like it's hard for coaches to see everybody. Um, it feels like, and what it is now is like X, Twitter, whatever you want to call. I'm still on the Twitter. I can't get Twitter off, so it's hard for me to say X. But when people tag us, we do pay attention to how they're tagging us. If there's somebody in Delaware that we probably may not see unless they are at tournaments that we happen to be at. And even then, it can be hard to show up for those games at times. So, any way that we can get those quick hits like that, that's kind of good because at least there is some level of information that has been planted on the brain for us to be able to say, oh, you know what, I do kind of remember seeing that, or that kind of stood out. Some of the video that's really like far, and I know they take a lot of clips from Game Changer and things like that, but sometimes it's really hard, specifically for pitching, to really kind of see things. So the better quality and like close up that I can see is a little bit better. I will say that. I think that's probably the quickest way. I probably have 1,000 emails, probably literally in my inbox right now. It used to be email was like, okay, you can send me an email, but sometimes it's hard to flow through all of those too. Not saying that I don't open them or read them, but it just does take a little bit longer to be in that space where maybe the social media space is a little bit quicker hit for that. If you're at a distance, when I'm watching and I'm looking at pictures, um, it's hard to evaluate at times. Obviously, the pitchers that throw hard, that's easy to see. If you're throwing, 63 or 64 plus, like you're probably going to have some level of success based on velocity. But what I'm looking for is just really like, maybe you're not getting all the strikeouts. The strikeout pitchers are always easy to see, and not everybody is a strikeout pitcher, and that's totally okay too. But what are you doing that's quality as far as effectiveness? Like man, there hasn't been like maybe more than one person that's reached base. Like, what is this pitcher doing that is making hitters really struggle to square her up, and it makes me want to lean in a little bit more. So quality outs, I would say, are important. If you're not the strikeout pitcher, you don't have elite speed, you can still have elite qualities about you. If being a pitcher is hard, and what I will say is your body language in the circle is so crazy important, because if every school has the intent of wanting to get to the world, to have a chance to win a national championship, you've got to be able to get to the World Series. And if you want a pitcher that, or pitchers that are going to help you get to that space, like, you want to know that there's a level of confidence. You want the players behind them. You want to feel some level of energy that they can feed to, or feed off of, like, the people that are around them. So there's a leadership quality in pitchers that is very necessary. And I think it shows up a lot. Some of the fall games that are happening right now are really, and I'll just be on, they're kind of hard to watch because the level of competitiveness is really just not present. But yet now we're looking for the next best for the next recruiting class. But I want to see a level of energy and a level of command just of the circle. Forget about the strike zone and being able to strike somebody out, but you've got to be able to own the circle. And I would love to see a pitcher that can be, even in the dugout, still like excited for their teammates. If you're not a pitcher that hits, right? Excited for their teammates. I'm still very much watching how players are treating their parents, and how they're interacting with parents. We can't talk to anybody, which kind of, thank goodness that we can't, but we can search. So that just means that like we're watching a lot of the extras, right? Because the skill level, I can see a good player, I can see a good pitcher, but what matters even more for you to be able to communicate, to a previous question, like for that communication factor to happen, like there has to be a good person in there. And that stuff shows up with your parents probably the most, and with your coach. Like if your coach comes to the mound after maybe you gave up a double in the gap, everybody's going to give up hits, right? Nobody's throwing no hitters all the time. But how are you receiving the coach's feedback in the circle? Like, are you giving attention? Are you like rolling your eyes and like looking around at your friend and kind of giggling? Like those things can be probably not great signs if I'm just watching and evaluating what your body language is in this circle. So I could probably keep going on and on, but a lot of those are really, I think, things that are at the forefront just because we're kind of in an active evaluation and recruiting period right now where I'm watching for some of these things and it's kind of really hard to find. So you want to be that one person. And you know what? I would rather somebody be like overly annoying and overly like cheerful and cheery, because at least it shows that there's some level of effort into really liking what you're doing and being involved and you have attention to the game. So there's all kinds of levels, but those are just some things that I can think of off the top of my head.
Fantastic. What do you think is the most beneficial way to start your windup?
It's I don't have every pitcher is their own person and every pitcher has their own style. And so that's kind of a loaded question, kind of, sort of. I don't think there's a necessarily a wrong way. I think that if you can't throw strikes and somebody's like, hey, you should probably like try to think about how you're starting your windup. Like if you're having a hard time finding the zone, or if you have inconsistencies, that's probably the nicer way to put it. If you have some inconsistencies, you probably want to start with how you're starting. Like, how do I get more consistent? Well, let's take a look at like how you're starting, how your first drive off the mound is. Like, are you consistent in that space? There is such a thing for pitchers as having a fundamental, like a way to feel the rhythm of your pitch. And I think Nicole can probably speak to this a little bit because she had a little going on when she was trying to feel like you want your windup to be consistent, right? You want some level of consistencies. But if you can't match that consistency and have the right tempo off the mound every time, you're going to have some level of inconsistencies in your pitching. So I'm not going to try to dive into anything super fundamental, but I do think I would just say there should be a consistency in your windup. Like it should be consistent. And if it's not showing up in the outcome, then you got to take a look at what your process is doing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah. The start is, it's a domino effect. If the start's off, everything after that is going to be off.
Like, right.
It's really that simple.
Yeah. 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 So, you can talk backswings, push, somebody that start no backswing, somebody that pushes down, all of that, that's style in my mind. Mm-hmm. Like I would label that as like, that's your style. You can look at Nicole May's style and then talk about what Kelly Maxwell's style was. They're both very different, but both had a level of efficiencies in how they started their windup. And I think Nicole and I probably went through a couple rabbit holes of like backswing and what are we doing and how are we feeling? What do we need to do there? But at the end of the day, it just needed to be consistent.
How many pitches do you expect pitchers to have at each age or level? How much emphasis do you put on speed and how often should pitchers be clocked?
It's been a long time since I've really had consistent community or like development with pitchers at a younger age. In my younger career, I was doing pitching lessons. So a lot of things, and that was really helpful for me as a young pitching coach to do that because it really helped me find my own, I guess, style, in a way to communicate to pitchers. But um, I'm going to say this. If I'm gonna start, like, I'm gonna go to where we're at in college, and I'm gonna say, even in college, when I look at from the World Series pitchers, and the amount of pitches they have been able to be effective with, I'm going to start with three, right? So there are elite pitchers that have mastered at least three pitches, and one of those three pitches has been a change of speed. And there are plenty more pitchers at that elite college level, and probably world class pitchers who probably have mastered five pitches. And I would say they would probably say whatever that fifth pitch is still like a work in progress. And you've been in that space yourself, Christina, over time. But so we could say like four pitches, college pitchers, like four pitches, right? We can use Nicole as an example. Change up, curve, rise, drop, right? I'm not missing one, right?
Mm.
Yeah, right. Change, curve, rise, drop. And she can rank those in an order, probably pretty consistently. And so that's four pitches. And here's a pitcher that just, when she had her moments in the World Series, here recently, just went off and did great on four pitches. And so, and that's what she needed. And she would probably look at maybe pitch number four and be like, yeah, it was probably three pitches, right? But being able to throw those on multiple planes, hitting location wise, sometimes like just because the spin got her through some things. But so it started in that space. So we're looking at 3 to 4 pitches, one change of speed. So when you work backwards from there, I think Nicole probably, again, that fourth pitch, we probably worked on developing pitch number 3 and 4 for a long time and trying to get even just comfortable with those pitches. So in high school, I'll go backwards to high school and say, like, in high school, you want to have your top speed and you want to have a change of speed, and you want to have one of whatever that top speed pitch is, should probably, like, that's like your bread and butter pitch. And it'd be nice to have a pitch that complements it, which is change up, right? So if you have another pitch, let's just call it a rise ball. So if you can complement a rise ball, how would you do it? And every pitcher is going to be different. I don't know that there's a right and a wrong reason. If just three, think about, I think high school, let's just call it three pitches, right? So, and it doesn't have to be rise. It can be curve. It can be screw. It can be drop. Whatever that one pitch is, we want to be able to, like, start to build and be really good at another pitch, whether it's at another speed or another, on another plane, right? I would say planes, maybe that would be a better way to do this, is say in high school, you want to have a changeup, you want to have your top speed, and whatever plane that breaks to, whether it's up, down, in, or out, you want to try to have another pitch that you can develop on a different plane, right? I think that would be a fair way to say it. So let's just call that three pitches in high school. And if you go back maybe to elementary school, and speed is relative to me. I don't really know. I'm not really going to put like I think there's been plenty of pitchers at the D1 level that have thrown, low 50s, low 60s, or high 50s, low 60s that have had plenty of success. And so I think speed is relative to your pitches. I don't know. I'm not willing to really put a hard number on the top end velocity. So I think just speaking to whatever your top end is, that's what you should, and you can always strive for more, right? If you're throwing 70 plus, make sure you're tagging me all the time. But I would just say, like, it's hard to, that's a gift when people can do that. It's a gift. It's really And you can train, and I'm not saying don't train to do it, because you can always train for velocity only. So when you're talking about, middle school age, maybe that's the 13, 12 and under um, bracket, you want to work for two speeds, your top end speed and a change of speeds, because those are staples throughout pitching careers that can have success.
I also think to kind of add, because you see the younger pitchers and their parents like, oh, when can she start learning this pitch? When can she start learning this pitch? I'm like, she can't even throw the ball straight for a fastball yet. Like, why are we trying to get ahead of ourselves? So, um, yeah, I had my first pitching coach was I was also eager, like, oh, I want to learn a changeup. Like other people are throwing changeups. I want to learn one, and she didn't let me, or she didn't teach me it until I could hit my inside outside locations 7 out of 10 times. So now that's kind of how I operate too, but you have to be able to master those building blocks, like you said, or the foundation before even attempting to learn something else.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
you
you
can't.
know what? When I think about the foundations of what you were able to do as a pitcher, I mean, you could dot a location, and the spin showed up most of the time, and sometimes it didn't, but your location was always still important with the change of speed, right? So I think that foundation really, it stayed with you, and it carried you through an elite profile. So I think that's a great way to to really look at things and maybe start in an area, a way to approach it as a young pitcher.
I have a lot of kids come in and their coaches or are either pressuring them for another pitch or they're on a team and their other pitchers have, 5 pitches. I'm like, okay, but do they actually do anything? I don't know. Well, okay, can you hit your spots when you want? Yeah. Like, can they do that? No. I'm like, so you have something that they don't have that's going to be way more effective in the long run. And that's going to stay with you for the entirety of your career, no matter how long that is. Like, we don't need to be in a hurry. Find success at whatever level you're at and then build.
Yeah. Yeah, what's the beauty of kind of how softball and technologies are evolving is that now you can prove it to them, right? You think about some of the technologies that are out there. Probably the most accessible one, I think, for pitching coaches, not necessarily everybody, but to be able to look at a Rapsodo reading and be able to say, okay, we're shooting for a curveball, but our spin efficiency, and I'll tell you, there's a lot of elite pitchers that their spin efficiency is down, but there's something that they do that is really good, whether it is locations, velocities, change of speed. So their spin efficiency may not be great, but they are really good at one of those things. That definitely speaks to foundations. Some people can really just get under a rise ball and create like really good backspin. That's a gift. That's hard to do. Or a fastball that has really good spin efficiency that also is a drop ball. And so, but you don't know that. Sometimes you can do things even with a camera, with your iPhone or with any phone that you have, and slow it down and really see it. But the foundational piece is so important. But if you want the truth about like, are they really throwing a screwball? Like, let's just be honest, there's probably 0.5% of the population that can throw a true screwball. Like, it's just very hard to do and hard to get into position to throw that pitch efficiently. But everybody can hit probably a good fastball inside and locate, and it might have top spin or a backspin, but you're going to get inside and it's going to feel like a screwball, and let's just call it a fastball. Because that's kind of what it is, and that's okay.
Kind of like change ups. You might think you throw a flip change, but it's more of like a handshake change or, like a different kind of change. And it could be a great pitch, but it's not what you think it is. And that's fine.
I don't even know how I throw my changeup. Like actually,
exactly.
I know what I think I do.
Nothing, Nicole.
No, I know what I think I do, and I know my different grips, but how it actually releases, like I see how it spins and all that, but how I actually let go of it, no idea. I think what I think is just what I assume, but who knows if it even comes out like that. So
It's totally fine. It worked.
yeah,
Exactly.
it
It's
did
good.
what it needed to do. So
It's good.
one of the last question that Christina got from one of her clients, which it is a very me question, is well, very me question. What do you eat before games?
I eat whatever is available for me. If it's before noon, I'm definitely drinking some coffee. But food wise, I just have to. I'm not a picky eater, and I'm not like in. I'm a little stitious, not superstitious. So if there are pancakes and eggs available, I'm eating it. If it's an avocado toast, I'm eating it. So I just have, for me, it's not what I eat. It's just like, yes. Am I eating before a game? Absolutely. I think that's probably it. So I don't have something consistently that I have to have before a game. So I mix it up. I don't like to eat the same thing all the time. I like to mix it up a little bit.
Well, thanks again for coming on today. Really appreciate your time.
Yes, thank you, Nicole. Good to see you.
I know. It was good to see your face.